Good evening, everyone. This is Mike Feinberg with the Fighting News, April 6, 2021, and this is your Boxing Weekly Review. I'm going to try to get these things pumped out every week if I can, guys. Don't hold me to it, but I'm going to do my best and try. All right, a lot of information to cover because I haven't done one of these in quite some time. A lot of boxing news. I've got results. I've got featured bouts coming up. I've just got some news in general about boxing, and I'm going to share it all with you right now. Try to go through it as fast as I possibly can. I know you want to sit and listen to me mumble on and on and on. So without further ado, here we go. First and foremost, we got this coming Saturday, a great banger of a match. The vacant WBO light heavyweight championship is on the line. Joe Smith Jr. will be fighting Maxim Blassoff. Guys, if you don't know Maxim Blassoff, you should. The guy's an amazing fighter. 48-fight pro career, 3 losses. One of them has been avenged, which is Isaac Chilemba. Another loss he took was to Zerto Ramirez, who's beaten simply everybody in his path at the top boxing's elite right now in that division. And all 3 of those losses that he's had, never been stopped. Never once in a 48-fight career has this man been stopped. He packs some power, and he's got the skills, and he's got the intelligence to take anybody out in the division. So he's facing Joe Smith Jr., someone who's been knocking on boxing's elite door basically here for the last couple of years as he's just gone through each and every name fighter put in front of him. Very impressive fighter, especially as of late. This is a banger of a fight and it's a toss-up, guys. I really don't know what's going to happen. All I can tell you, fireworks. If Joe Smith Jr. does actually come out on top of this fight, which many spectators are thinking is going to probably happen, look to him to probably try to go to unify belts immediately. He's not going to waste any time. He wants to get out there and fight some of the best. So, look out for that fight on Saturday. You won't want to miss it. Moving forward to the following weekend. Next Saturday, the 17th, you've got what many people would consider to be a big boxing card. I don't know that I would call it quite that, but it is going to be an interesting spectacle. So you got Jake Paul fighting Ben Askren. Neither one of these guys is boxers, but we're going to see what happens, who comes out on top. That is April 17th. That is the headliner of that particular card. But let me talk about what else is on that card. Originally, Antonio Tarver, senior, not junior, was going to come back out of retirement, come back and fight Frank Mir. You know, Frank Mir, most famously known simply for his long MMA career. He's never fought a professional boxing match sanctioned before. But it was going to be interesting to see these guys, tangle together. But, it didn't come to happen because, unfortunately, Tarver didn't pass a couple of tests that were necessary for him to get sanctioned and approved for this bout. So he has been replaced, if you haven't yet heard, by Steve USS Cunningham, former champion. He'll be taking on Frank Mir in the co-main event that night on April 17th. But the most interesting fight that I believe is on that card is Regis Prograis fighting Ivan Redcash. Now, these two guys, if you haven't seen their fights recently, immediately go to YouTube and start checking into some history of this stuff. Because I got to tell you, both these guys, they come to bring it each and every time that they fight. I have no idea who's going to come out on top in that bout. All I know is another fight with a lot of fireworks coming out of it. Quote me, that will be the fight of the night on that card. Beyond that, we move into May. Hey, Canelo Alvarez just fought, right? Just saw him down here in Miami, my hometown. You know what? Getting back in the ring again, just that quick. He had a long layoff. He was kind of tired of it. Figures he'd shake it off, and you know how much he loves that Mexican Independence weekend, right? Always, that Cinco de Mayo weekend. He loves that weekend. So, happens to be Mother's Day weekend as well, guys. May 8th, he will be taking on the undefeated WBO super middleweight champion, Billy Joe Saunders. You got 3 major sanctioning bodies, belts on the line that night. So we talk about unification of all kinds of sorts, where you've got the undefeated Billy Joe Saunders, the one guy in that division who probably can take out a Canelo Alvarez. If anybody's got the skills to do so in that division, it's going to be Billy Joe Saunders. This huge mega fight will be taking place on May 8th at AT&T Stadium out in Texas. Look, 60,000 fans are going to be in attendance that night. Not since the pandemic began have we seen anything close to that amount at a boxing match anywhere here in the United States. Looking forward to an enormous event that night between Canelo and Saunders. You then have a special rare treat coming up on May 22nd. Guys, mark your calendar for this one. You've got Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor getting in the ring together. If you guys don't already know, each of these guys holds 2 belts in the super lightweight division. They are going to unify all the belts, all the marbles. This is for the undisputed super lightweight / junior welterweight champion of the world. Call it what you want, but I can tell you at the end of that night, you're going to be calling one guy the champion. If it happens to be Ramirez, and I'm leaning a little bit towards that being the case, Ramirez most likely will not be staying in that division. He'll unify those belts and he'll get the heck out. Step up to welterweight and immediately start looking for title shots right away. Could it be Errol Spence? Could it be Manny Pacquiao? Could it be Terrence Crawford? Sounds like Manny Pacquiao and Terrence Crawford, they're doing some talking right there. That fight may be coming up together, so it may not be those guys. But we'll see. Either way, we'll see what he can do when he steps up to the next division. Tyson Holyfield 3. This is a surprise for you guys, right? Did you ever think many, many years ago after you saw that second fight you would ever see a trilogy match? Well, Tyson Holyfield 3. Talking about May 29th. That is the expected, anticipated date for that matchup. Will it come to fruition? I have no idea. You know, is Triller being sure that this is going to happen? We don't know. We know both these guys are in training. We know they're both looking real good. Obviously, we've recently seen Tyson fight against Roy Jones Jr. in an exhibition match. Naturally, this fight will also be an exhibition match. I'm sure there'll be a lot of rules in there of what they can and cannot do. So it won't be quite the spectacle we saw in the first 2 matchups between these 2 guys. But wouldn't it be great just to be able to see these 2 guys get in the ring against one another again after so many years? I'm excited for it. I would love to see that. Holyfield, you know, I saw him basically on a weekly basis down here before he moved back a little farther up north. But moving on to the next fight. Vasyl Lomachenko. He is making his comeback as well. So you got Vasyl Lomachenko. It's talked about for a fight in June against Masayoshi Nakatani. If you don't know much about Nakatani, Nakatani, just like Loma, lost to Teofimo Lopez. But then Nakatani stopped Felix Verdejo, an amazing up-and-coming prospect. And he did it in a fight that I think was fight of the year. That's my opinion. You guys check that out. So again, Nakatani and Verdejo. Check out that history of that fight. You tell me what you think about that fight, and let me know in the comments down below. So Loma and Masayani Nakatani, we really hope that fight does come together. That sounds like it would be an explosive, exciting fight as well. And looking forward to seeing Loma get back in action. Been a while. We missed him. Then you got Shakur Stevenson. He's fighting on June 12th. He's got his mandatory. Honestly, guys, I couldn't even tell you the guy's name right here in front of you. Got too much going on up here. But what I do know is that that fight has an attachment to one of the results I'm going to jump right into here, which was when Jamel Herring defeated Carl Frampton this past Saturday in Dubai. Now, Jamel Herring came down a weight class. Carl Frampton stepped up the weight class. So these guys could try to fight for the vacant belt there. And Jamel Herring was just a little too tall, a little too lengthy, longer reach, heck of a lot more weight on him than Carl Frampton. Carl Frampton has got to be one of the best, if not the best, in that small stature of fighters out there in history. I mean, he's just an amazing, amazing fighter. But unfortunately, once again, when you try to fight a guy with that many advantages against you, there's only so much you can do. It did not go Carl Frampton's way that night. Unfortunately, the corner had to throw the towel in because if you know anything about Carl Frampton, he wasn't going to quit on his own. He didn't know what's good for him when it comes to something like that. But he's a champion. He's got a lion's heart, and that guy will go down in the record books as one of the best fighters ever in the history of boxing. After that fight, post-fight conference, Frampton did announce his official retirement after that. He was so much looking forward to being a 3-division champion and the first ever from Ireland, but it just didn't go his way, guys. I really hope he reconsiders the retirement, maybe steps back down to guys more his size, and just continues to take him out like he always did in the past. Carl, you're a true champion. We're not going to remember you for last weekend's fight. What I will remember you for is those mega fights you had against Scott Quigg when you unified. The fight you had against Leo Santa Cruz when you pulled the upset. Those fights, those kinds of fights is what I'll remember Carl Frampton for. I hope you guys as fans do as well. So I mentioned a minute ago Shakur Stevenson. Well, now that Jamel Herring has won his belt, He's actually going to be fighting Shakur Stevenson, should Stevenson win on June 12th, sometime in late September. These are two great fighters facing one another. It's curious to see what's going to happen that night because, again, Jamel Herring comes in with a reach, height, and most likely weight advantage over Shakur Stevenson if they do, in fact, tangle together and get in the ring. Now, continuing on with these results here, Dillon White stopped Alexander Povetkin. If you guys remember the first fight these guys had, Povetkin stopped White. It was a surprise to many, many, many people in the boxing industry as they thought Dillon White was the next great thing, going to be coming back and getting his revenge fight against Anthony Joshua. Unfortunately, it just didn't pan out that way that night for Alexander Povetkin. And similarly to the same situation that happened in Carl Frampton's corner, Povetkin's corner also threw in the towel that night. It was a little sooner as it came in round 4. We don't know what to expect now from Povetkin's career. Is he done? Is he not? It's never a good sign with somebody of advanced age like he is to have their corner throw in a towel. But it was against the likes of a Dillon White, who's at the top realm right now of the division as a contender. I'd still like to see Povetkin keep fighting. All the things he's been able to do recently, he's proven everybody wrong about his capabilities. You got Andy Ruiz and Chris Arreola matching up on May 1st, something I didn't have written down, but I want to throw at you as well. That's a great fight to see these two Mexican warriors go at it like that in the heavyweight division. When's the last time you saw two Mexican warriors in the heavyweight division going at it? You haven't, because it hasn't happened before. Winner of that fight, I'd love to see him fight Povetkin. That'd be a great fight. Let's see it happen. Let's see what happens. Should Ruiz win? Ruiz Povetkin? Who doesn't want to see that? Moving on from that point, I want to jump into some surprises that have happened here in boxing recently. When I say surprise, it's just, things you didn't expect. First one, Oscar De La Hoya. No surprise, no secret. If you've heard me speak before, you all know Oscar is my favorite fighter. A man that can do pretty much anything he wanted in the ring, no matter what size, what weight class, didn't matter who he beat. That man is a multi-division champion, having taken out some of the world's greatest fighters. And when you yourself can take out a dozen Hall of Famers, what does that make you? Right, it makes you one of the best. He never shied away from anybody bigger than him. Didn't make a difference what weight he was weighing in. And the man won a middleweight championship against a true, actual middleweight in Sergio Martinez. True champion. Love to see that he's coming back to boxing. After a very long retirement, he's coming back to actual fighting, not an exhibition match, a real bout. Will it actually come together? Well, I think they'd sanction him. I think they'd make it happen. And July 3rd, I guess we'll know for sure if it's really going to come down. Looking forward to seeing that and really happy to see him back in the ring. Alongside of that, you guys know my number 2? Have you ever known who my number 2 was, who always fought for that number 1 spot in my heart? Miguel Cotto. And Cotto is also coming back. Miguel Cotto was fighting Juan Manuel Marquez. That's scheduled to be sometime in June. Now, these two guys are each 4-division champions. And you got that whole Mexican-Puerto Rican rivalry. There's nothing better than a fight like that. These two guys collectively have beaten guys like Sergio Martinez, Zab Judah, Paulie Malignaggi, Shane Mosley, Marco Antonio Barrera, Juan Diaz, and Manny Pacquiao. They're in great company. Yes, that one will be an exhibition match, but I don't care. I want to see these two guys tangle and get in the ring with one another. That is an exciting fight. So that's it for now. Look, I've rambled on enough. You guys have a lot to take in as we speak right now about this. But look, there's a lot more to cover. Maybe next show we'll talk a little bit more about it. Maybe we'll go more in depth about some of these fights as well. And we'll have some results for you about some of these fights. So until that time, guys, once again, this has been Mike Feinberg with The Fighting News. And this has been your Boxing Weekly Review. Have a great night, everyone. Stay safe. Take care.